Where all my Billy Clan members at? Watching for the days of fashion, wondering what Billy doing. Tuning in from day to day. Fashion, money, stacks and stacks. Go get y'all, go y'all back. It's the fifth day, the fifth day, the fifth day, the fifth day. I will be presenting my Professional Princesses collection to you all. I'm going to describe what my idea was, what the whole concept was, things of that nature. But before we get started, make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. I repeat, make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Here's my inspiration. So, little inspiration. It was inspired by the three Disney princesses, Belle, Tiana, and Jasmine. They were my favorite princesses, and they still are because they're so tea to me. So I just really wanted to make the whole concept surrounded around them growing up, but still making sure they keep that same still pay homage to their princess life that they live, you know. But it's also a mixture of princess, teenager, kid, and business wear. So that's where the title comes in, Professional Princesses. So the overall message I want to convey with this presentation is that it describes the pivotal point of them growing up from teenagers to young women into the business industry. This will be, like I said, a business wear collection for the fall and winter. So my mission statement for my presentation is my Professional Princesses collection blends nostalgia with maturation. This pivotal point speaks to women 18 to 24 years of age. At this point in their lives, there's a teenager to young woman transition. Various mental and physical as well as career development takes place too. So I was just putting where I am mentally and physically. It's a great correlation, in my opinion, because it reflects me. So it's here me. The fabrics that I decided to use. So the first one is pink tulle. You'll see once I show y'all the clothes what I use that for. Then it's a blush pink, which I actually end up changing the color. Then it's the gray, navy blue, the blue and white pattern one, and the brown knit. And like I said, it's just business wear. They have Disney Worlds. And here's how it looks on the models. The first garment is my knit top. And this was an assignment. I used a contrast thread because if I were to use brown, it would not show up. Of course, some challenges I ran into while doing this was that my twin needle broke. Okay, my twin needle broke. And if y'all have worked with knit fabrics, which this was my first time working with a knit fabric, it's stretchy. It's difficult to work with, and you need that twin needle depending on what method you use to stitch seams. I used the twin needle and pulling as I went seam technique. I did that for the neckline. I did it for the sleeves and the hem. Now the hem has lace trim. I wanted to add an extra pizzazz that really didn't take that. Added something nice to it, but didn't detract away from the whole aesthetic of the shirt. It's still like casual, kind of like it's just, you know, plain, not doing too much. Real classic. I also wanted to include these little waterfall ruffles on the sides. I found that to be a pretty addition. One thing I did wish I would have changed was the width because they're so narrow. It just looked like spaghetti, and we're not trying to make people hungry. You know, we're not doing that. So I would say that's something that I would have changed. And there's a back seam. So there's a center back seam, there's the arm size, and the side seams, and the neckline. The neckline I also serged together, and then I went with my twin needle when it worked. When it worked, I basically just tacked this down to the back of the shirt. So I would rate doing this a 9. It wasn't that difficult. Apart from my twin needle breaking, it wasn't that difficult of a thing to do when it came to making this shirt. My next next garment is this little shirt, this blouse. Now, I mentioned that there was tulle. I put pink tulle on the sleeves, on the sleeve caps to give that royalty look. And I also included tulle on the pocket right here in a little bow, and I also made a cute bow on the back. My design choices were to first of all, I decided to place the pocket down here because it just gave it like a different feel of the shirt. And I also find it pretty practical to put a pocket right there instead of like reaching all the way up here. Like, why are we doing that? Like, why are we doing that? We don't need no pocket that's all the way up to our neck. Like, what's the point of that? Okay, I'm being dramatic, but that's besides the point. So the construction of this includes sleeve, hem, sleeve, cuff, the buttons and the vent, shoulder yoke, the rest of the back, just one panel. This was pleated. Has the collar stand and fall, the center plackets, and buttons. I think what would have made this much easier when it comes to making this was to have a buttonhole gauge to allow me to pinpoint where to place my buttons, because initially they were supposed to be lower because I also wanted to make sure I had enough at the bottom, so that way, like, if this was like someone actually wearing this, they'll be able to open it and close it, and like they'll have that ease at the bottom, but not too far down, you know. Or maybe I should just put the buttons closer together. So in the future, if I like when I make button down shirts and everything, I will definitely pay more attention to where I place my buttons, where I place my buttonholes. For women, I do want to do one thing though, and that is make sure that the buttons are, well, I want to make sure the buttons are closer together to accommodate the bust area, because there's that gaping in like some parts of the shirt. I mean, every woman doesn't struggle with this, but for those who do, I really feel like that would be more convenient. I'm not talking about the buttons piled up on top of one another, okay? That don't make no sense. But this is about what, 3 inches apart. I'll probably do about 1.5 inches next time. Of course, that also includes for more buttons as well. But anything for comfort. Yeah, so this is the shirt. And I also, when it came to like making it look casual, I didn't want to do too much top stitching because that was going to make it look more casual than dressier. But I still think it ended up looking more casual, especially like the fabric that I chose, this checker print. But it's cute. And it's like I said, this was going to be a blush, but I couldn't find the exact one that I was looking for, given like the limited resources and stores I had. So I just had to opt out for this, and I think it suited this really well. Now this here gave me a run for my money, my time, my effort, my sanity, and everything else. Okay, making this jacket, the most difficult thing was probably lining it, bagging the lining. That was difficult. The It has princess seams as well. See the princess seams. And to go along with the princess theme, I wanted to make sure that I had some buttons to go with that. So I found some tiara buttons, and that really, really made me so happy when I saw them. And they weren't too high, like they weren't too expensive. They were perfect. While I was making this, I made the mistake of fusing my fusible interface into the lapel. The collar is kind of weird looking. Like I said, this was the hardest garment I had to make, the hardest garment I've ever made. And to say, I mean, it looks like a jacket. Like when you see it, it looks like, okay, this is a jacket. So it's not that terrible. But there are some things wrong with it. Like the sleeves are wrong. There's like a little opening right here. Now the biggest challenge was spending forever on the collar and attaching that to the lapel to make it as one so it could fold over properly. That gave me a lot of problems because it kept being straight or just not forming those notches, the notch lapels. And I said I don't want to make another jacket ever again, but eventually I might have to make a jacket for somebody, and I'm not gonna miss out on a client because I haven't been working on my jacket skills. So I'm going to try to make another jacket one day, and hopefully it comes out much better than this. Like you live and you learn. This also has welt pockets, and one thing about the pockets as well, I made them too small, so the pocket flap is not as long as it should be. I made that mistake as well. One thing I do want to say is that when I'm cutting, that's really an issue because I use fabric shears, and with fabric shears you're lifting up the fabric a little bit and then cutting, and then it has like those jagged edges almost on the sides. So that may be also an issue. So I might have to invest in a rotary cutter really, really soon. And also, we added shoulder pads. It's inside of the jacket, like in the inner workings of the jacket. Here's the buttons. I wanted to make sure they were close, like they are on regular jackets, but still like far apart. There's some blue ones to match. So overall, I would say this is probably, when it came to making it, I'll say it was a 6. Okay. I'll give it a 6. Yeah, so those were the whole concept of my collection. I really hope y'all liked it and enjoyed this video. And make sure y'all come back for day 6, guys. Make sure y'all come back, because like, it's not over. It ain't over.